Welcome back, pet parent. I couldn't be excited to have this return guest on for you today because my everything that I talk about somehow always comes right back around to gut health. Thank you so much for being here with us again today, Rob. Rob Ryan of Gussy's Gut is with us, and I just would love for you to kind of remind people. It's been a little bit since you've been on. Gussy's Gut is so different. It's so unique. And I've just been, I mean, I tell so many people about it, but I would love for you to kind of give us a brief rundown of like the history of Gussy's Gut and kind of the mission of what you're doing.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me back on and thank you for telling everybody about us. And thank you all for watching and listening. Hopefully, we'll be able to share some couple, two, three aha moments for some of you, most of you. Well, yes, so Gussy's Gut is all about gut health. My dog's name is Gus. I work with Dr. Ian Billinghurst, who I met. I actually hired him. It's pro tip, by the way. It's a really good way to get to be friends with really great people is hire them. It's a really great intro. So in the year 2000, I hired Dr. B to teach me how to feed raw food to my black lab buddy. I have a new black lab, Gus. Well, he's 8 years new. But yeah, so that was what, 25 years ago when Dr. B and I worked together. And I came to him after I'd done some fermentation for my second black lab, Gus, and it just transformed his entire world. Like bizarre things were happening that were super positive. And believe it or not, before that, I had never, ever given my dogs for 20, so what would that have been? 21 years, I had never given fermented foods to my dogs. And I was taught by the king. And so I went to Dr. B and he said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I've never thought of this. Like, what was I thinking for decades?" Because he'd been teaching this for 30 years, wrote the top four bestsellers on raw pet food and what we call species appropriate or biologically appropriate feeding. And I went to him because I recognized right away that fermented foods were obviously thousands of years old, but they were part of this species appropriate diet because dogs were burying bones for millions of years. They were burying parts of their kill, pieces of meat, all that stuff. That, of course, when it gets buried, for those of you who don't know, all the bugs in the soil, they attack the thing and they pre-digest it, they ferment it. And then of course they're eating the gut contents of the prey animal. And so I'm not that squeamish about that. And I don't even have any problem, thinking of my dog eating a prey animal. I've never done it, but it's totally instinctual. But some people do. And I can understand that. They'd be squeamish about it. And so what we do is we mimic in a very optimized way what you'd find in the gut of a rabbit. If a rabbit ate the perfect diet. And we ferment it and that would mimic the digestion of the gut of the rabbit. And we make that in this like very idealized, optimized recipe that we think about the profile of the ingredients. What is the profile? This is a key thing that people think greens are greens, vegetables are vegetables, all that, and they're absolutely not. So I could show you 10 greens that'll have 10 different nutritional profiles. And so when you're strategic and intentional about what you're adding into a recipe, you're thinking about, well, what is the spectrum? What is that full picture, that spectrum of that formula? What is it doing? And what nutrients are getting absorbed? So, and then when you ferment it, it's like you pre-digest it. So meaning it's a lot easier for those nutrients to actually be absorbed by the body. For humans, when we eat fermented foods, and also for the other mammals in our lives, dogs and cats. So it works just the same way. And that's also good because when you think about a vitamin you take, believe it or not, it's really pathetic how little gets absorbed. When you think about, a piece of steak, it's only as good as your digestive system is to break it down. and be able to assimilate it, absorb it. And another word for that you might read a lot is bioavailable. Is it biologically available or accessible to our systems and to our dog and cat systems? So I'll stop there, but I could go on and on.
Yeah, well, I want to ask you more about fermentation in a little bit, and I also want to talk about a new offering that Gussy's Gut has, and we'll get to that. But before we do, I would just like to kind of stay in this realm of gut health for a little while. So obviously, this is like your world, what you do all day and all night. You probably dream about it.
Probably.
Why are we constantly talking about gut health now? Like this is something that like if you don't have your head in the sand, somewhere somebody on your social media feed has brought up the idea of your gut not being healthy. And why does that matter so much? Not just to us, but like for our pets. I think that there are additional things that we need to think about for our pets.
Yeah. First question that you asked was why. So you have a couple things going on. So gut health has always been important. It's always been, I think, in the modern world for the last several hundred years, it's gotten progressively more challenging only because, um, and you're right, that's all we do is gut health because we think it's that important. So we know that as food has degraded, and we know for a fact, it is completely a fact. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a theory that food, to get the same amount of nutrients just since 1950 that you would eat in anything, pick the thing, carrot, kale, lettuce, I don't care what it is. You have to eat an order of magnitude of usually like between 30% and 300% more of that thing to get the same amount of nutrients today that you would have in the year 1950. So what happened? Well, we changed a lot of our agricultural practices. You know a lot about this. You talk a lot about this, which I just so appreciate about you because that's the core of this. It's how are we farming? What are we spraying on our crops? Oh, how much, um, much less is our soil contributing to the nutrition of our food because our soil is degraded. And people just Google this on their own, but really, it goes earlier than the 50s, but that's really when things started to shift a bit for the worse. And so it just takes it takes more to feed somebody and get the same amount of nutrients as back then. Then you have those things I alluded to, which is the sprays, the chemicals, herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, of course. And there's a lot of them. There's many, many, over 20 of them that are the top big bad chemicals. Obviously, glyphosate, GLY. Google that, and then PHOSATE, I believe. It's towards the end of the day, but I think I did that right. So that's a very big chemical and really, really hard on the gut lining and the integrity of our gut. And it also has a lot of these other horrible effects. It makes absorption in our system. It weakens our absorption, our ability to absorb nutrients. It also affects what's called the shikimate pathway. And that's really horrifying for us because all these things, when you look at like what nutritional compounds do, what these phytochemicals, polyphenols in these plants do when we absorb them, they're magic. And these compounds have a lot of effects on these pathways and these systems. They power them. And it's really what helps us hum, and our dogs and cats help us hum along in a healthy way. When you start interrupting those things, and you have this this horrifying domino effect where everybody kind of goes, well, I don't know what's going on with my pet. Like, I just noticed this is happening. They're itching, and then they got chronic diarrhea, or there's a whole list of things that people see in their pets. They just don't have any idea what the culprit is. And it's really hard to nail the thing down. But glyphosate now is everywhere. It's literally in our rainwater. It's in our water. If you live near a golf course and a breeze comes towards you, it's in the drift of the air. They call that pesticide drift, glyphosate drift comes towards you. I mean, it's everywhere. And so what we're doing now is we're playing more of a defense than anything. Some people think when you're eating healthy and you're, working hard on your gut game with regards to your diet, like you're trying to get ahead. I would actually suggest what you're trying to do is just stay at a level, trying to fight against the forces that exist, almost like a tug of war. So if there are five forces against you, you're trying to have those five forces on the opposite end. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's just how I think of my own health and my dog's health.
There are so many things in there that I want to touch on. And this was something that I don't know, things just stick in your head sometimes and you're like, I don't know why that won't go away. But it's in addition to farming and ranching practices and all of the herbicides and pesticides and all of the things, we also don't eat locally anymore. And one of the things that has stuck in my head is that a leaf of spinach, for example, by the time it gets to your grocery store and you buy it and you bring it into your home, the vitamin C that was in that spinach is virtually gone. Like from the time it was picked until the time so we have so many things working against us. And if we did get back to eating locally, that would certainly be a huge inconvenience for so many of us, but would just that in itself could help us quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I say things all the time that are not good for business. I mean, one of the things that I say all the time, Dr. Billinghurst and I say all the time is in the order of perfection, eating and fermenting locally is on the top of the list. So what we do is we source the absolute best quality of ingredients. We don't make any compromise in that. But, one of the ingredients we source may not be local to where you're at right now. It just may not be. And you can't really, believe me, I thought about it. We really can't
Yeah.
do, it just doesn't, like, you could never keep a business going. I could never even keep manufacturing going if we did local. But I did think about doing like 3 sections of the United States. And then I started to think, oh gosh, what about the people in the North for Canada? And then, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But even in America, just doing 3, like almost like sections of the country is still not really perfect. And as we say, the juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze. But what we're trying to do is we're also trying to mimic nature. We're trying to make something accessible where people just don't have the time. But we always tell people, ferment on your own and go to your local farmer's market. Do that. Don't be a customer of ours. If you can do that, great. And if you can go to a farmer and get meat for your family, and your rancher and your farmer, and buy locally, like uh, that's pretty much about as good as you're going to get, with the exception of having your own farm and ranch, and that gets really crazy. That's
Yeah.
a whole different deal. But where those two options are not available, or even fermenting on your own, going to the grocery store and fermenting your own, we're here for you.
Yeah. Well, and so gut health in general, one of the things that I think it can be hard for people to like wrap their head around like where to start, what to do. You get a little bit of information and you go down the rabbit hole and you get so overwhelmed. And that's for me, like a lot of the clients that come to me, they have so much overwhelm. Like the first time I talk to them, I'm just trying to pin them down to get the information I need because they're all over the place because they've got so much information. They don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned, especially in the like certification program that I went through to be a holistic pet health coach, is that when in doubt, start with the gut. Like if you have a million things going on, your kidneys aren't working right, your liver's not working right, maybe you've got some cognitive issues. When in doubt, start with the gut because that's going to branch out to everywhere else. And that's exactly what you guys are trying to do is focus on the health of the gut and to help get it back into a place where, and so, but specifically with the products that you have, how are they affecting the gut? How are they improving the gut?
Yeah. So in an ideal world, I don't want to say perfect. In an ideal world, dog is going out and so is a cat, into their natural environment. They're getting they're getting local microbes from around where they live. So they're going into, puddles and ponds and streams and dirt, of course. And if your dog is like my dog and likes to play with the ball, they get the ball full of saliva, roll it in the dirt, and they're eating tons of dirt. I mean, it just is the way it is. And all of those things have microbes in them, including the air. So there are mostly good microbes. There are bad microbes in the air and the dirt and the water. It's everywhere. And the body just selects and can sort of push out the negative, bad stuff because it's keeping in the good stuff. So the good microbes win over the bad. It's really a good versus evil story. And how is that? Well, it's being healthy and resilient. And the way you do that is eating well first and foremost. Loving your dog is free. That's a big part of it. A dog that isn't bored, a dog that's living its genetic, purpose on this life. So all dogs are genetically different. Some are hunters, et cetera, et cetera. And also getting out and getting plenty of exercise. That is supremely important. Also free. It just costs time. And so the gut is, a lot of people talk about it differently. Some talk about it like a garden. And, lots of people have different types of metaphors and references, but I like to talk about it like it's a hotel or a B&B, a bed and breakfast, where the hospitable environment that you create is a healthy gut. And that welcomes in the good guys and keeps out the bad guys, locks them out. And so if you create a positive health environment for your gut, what happens is that they call them junctions. They're like they fit together, and really unhealthy ones are open. And so the bad guys go through them. Tight junctions keep them out. And so you can do that through really great nutrition. You can do that through some probiotics. I have a issue with all probiotics. They're not the answer and the end all be all. But you could do them with the trifecta of biotics: pre, pro, and postbiotics. Dr. Billinger says probably postbiotics are the most beneficial and potent in achieving the results that we want. Prebiotics are really nothing more than the fiber, the food that the good microbes want to eat. And when they eat that food, again, it's a comfortable bed and breakfast. When they're eating and they're comfortable and they're happy, they stay. When a gut is not hospitable, it's called the microbes are transient. So I don't care what you put in that's good, they fall right through the system. They come out of the rear end, in your dog's stool. And so even like all this money people pour in, if you've got a unwell dog and you're spending like $30 a week on probiotics, that's just money literally down the GI tract. I won't say the tube, but down the GI tract. And it literally just goes in and out. And some people say that provides some benefit a little bit. And some people say it really doesn't do much of anything because they're transient. They're just flowing through. They're not hanging around and providing any positive benefit. They're not sentinels keeping a lookout for the bad guys, and they're not locking into the gut and then digesting all that food that comes through it, because the microbes, that's really what they're doing. They're breaking down all these things. And so when you have I could go on and on about things like allergies and food sensitivities, one could easily point, and this isn't the only reason, but one could point to an unhealthy gut. Because if you say to me, I know for a fact my dog is allergic to chicken, I would say, look at, and I'm not sure we have the ability to unfortunately identify these things, but I would say your dog may be lacking the right microbes to break down the chicken, assuming it's real chicken and it's whole foods and it's, I would hope that it's raw food, because I'm a big raw food guy for 25 years. So, but no matter what, it's about the microbes living that can break down your dog's digestion. So we have a lot of folks that are coming to us feeding kibble, and they're rescue puppies or dogs, and they don't know where these dogs lived or how they lived before. They bring them into their home, and I want to start Gussy's gut. And they might say to us, oh my gosh, my dog's tummy's gurgling, like the first day. We say, just give it a second. It's going to be fine. Some say, my dog has a bout of gas. Oh my gosh, what's happening? We say, this is good. Like, think of it as a good thing. All these microbes are going, whoa, hello. And they're waking up and they're starting to adapt. And so the gut is changing and really the change that you're seeking is happening. And that's good. It's always temporary. It's like super temporary. And then you got even a smaller percentage of dogs that may get diarrhea. Crazy diarrhea, like where it's explosive in the house, that would be horrible. But like they're on a walk and they're happy and they're eating great and they're happy. Instead of like a hard stool, they're getting a diarrhea for like 1 or 2 days. That's it. And we even say, we have the whole video, gussysgut.com/diarrhea. We have a whole video about that because that could be an amazing indication that, oh my gosh, like real change is happening. And then, some dogs it's immediate transformation, and some dogs it takes 4 to 6 weeks to transform. Some it even takes up to 90 days. It kind of depends on age and their epigenetic history and what they've eaten in their life. All this stuff that's super boring. People tune out because they're like, oh, that's too many details. The bottom line is every dog's different, every cat's different. And so we have to respect the time that they need for them to adapt.
So we've been talking about how the products work, and you brought up probiotics again. We talked about probiotics pretty extensively the last time you were on.
Yeah.
It's a big topic that I like to cover as well. So definitely, if you are listening to this and you are giving probiotics to your dog, please go back and listen to the previous episode with Rob, because we really did kind of go through it and break all of those down. I definitely believe that we're overdoing these probiotics with dogs. I see it every single day. But so the actual products, and we talked the last time you were on about daily. So I would like to start there because you did a slight reformulation, which I'm actually really, really excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing huge, but
Yeah.
what I am most excited about is that you did take the cheese out and then you made one other adjustment. So can you tell me why you made those changes?
Yeah, I mean, we have 19 ingredients in our product called Daily. It's designed to be just a tremendous, I mean, with 19 superfoods in it, you can imagine it's pretty potent. And we designed it to be this incredible boost to your dog's health. We were getting a lot of folks over the years saying, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm looking for, but my dog can have no dairy. And, after a while, we started to take notice that there was quite a few. Then we did a quick search in our support software, like we did some research, like how many people actually, and it was, to my surprise, it was a lot more than I thought. So we took out the dairy just because at the beginning, I'll just say, I'll cop to it. I was very afraid that the only way to get this good stuff in most of our dogs in the world was to put a little enticing, stinky cheese in it. So we used organic cheese. It wasn't that much, but I still didn't want, my confidence has been, shored up over time because so many dogs love it. We actually, truthfully, we only get our request to return because the dog won't eat it. And so it's like nothing. And so I just said, this is crazy. Like, why won't I help these dogs that can't have dairy? They may have other issues that actually mean they need this even more than some other dogs. So we took out the cheese and we replaced it with more veggies. So that's all we did there. And then we also had kelp in ours that we think is an incredible micronutrient. By the way, I take I take Irish sea moss, and sometimes I'll take kelps and seaweed and stuff. And in pill form, not in a salad, but sometimes in a Japanese restaurant, I'll eat it. And what we're also hearing from many people is their raw food diets were pre-made and had kelp in it for the same reasons we did. And we wanted to not compete with those other products in terms of like, don't have a dog double up on kelp. We did an assessment of our micronutrients and we thought this is incredible. So what could we're already good in micronutrients even without the kelp. And we weren't putting a ton in, for for the reasons that I just mentioned, the iodine and all that. So we decided, let's replace it with ginger, which is an amazing anti-inflammatory and all that. I would say 98, 99% of our customers thought it was an incredible idea. And we had like 1 to 2% that didn't like the idea of like, adding cheese later for their super finicky dogs. And others really like the convenience of the kelp because they didn't have to do it. And all we said was, you really don't need kelp from us. You could just do like a really little, like a quarter teaspoon or, a teaspoon with larger dogs or whatever. And so that's why we made those switches. And now we have a new addition. Instead of kelp, it's ginger, fermented ginger.
I love that. I love ginger all
Me too.
around, I think. And dogs that are experiencing any sort of GI distress, I think ginger is great for them anyway.
Oh yeah. It's
So
anti-nausea, it's calming, it's anti-inflammatory. You can never you can never get enough anti-inflammatory. We have turmeric and ours our daily formula as well. And they're both fermented, so they're broken down and much easier to absorb and assimilate. And you can never get enough anti-inflammatory in a food source, if you ask me. Now, supplement made in a laboratory, maybe, but food source, the body can differentiate. The bodies of mammals, ours and our dogs and cats, they select, okay, today I'm going to absorb all of this because I need it, but I don't need all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and let it, I'm going to store it or I'm going to let it go. And it goes out the other end. But it's this magical, the body knows what it needs and it pulls and stores. And then if you're in and out of eating that nutrient, because it stores it, it'll release it and absorb it and be able to utilize it later on. So that's what Dr. B talks about, and why Dr. Billinghurst is not absolutely, he's not a believer in balancing every single meal perfectly and using food sources.
So the daily product that is currently available is really giving your dog a boost in nutrients, in good guys to feed the good bacteria in the gut, and really just supporting them when they need it to get all of these good, no matter what the base food is. So it's not like, oh, you're feeding an amazing diet, you still need these on top of it. It's regardless of what your animal is eating, this can help boost their gut health.
Yeah. And we know anecdotally and clinically, and the bigger government organizations have studied this, that when you consume a fermented food like kimchi or something, and this is unfortunately, it's only done in humans, not dogs and cats, but we know that dogs and cats are, especially dogs, are really, really similar in response to people for many things. When you eat fermented foods, the things you eat with it are better absorbed. And we have anecdotal evidence I'll never forget the name of this dog, Pesci. There's a video on our YouTube channel, Peshy, Pesci, customer of ours. Pesci's no longer with us. Pesci was an older dog and a big dog. And Pesci was on, I believe it was, if I remember the story right, was on medication for like arthritis and some other things. And our customer noticed, and she put up, when we recorded this video, I had her, Pesci would go long. She could tell when he needed his medication. She tried to string it out as long as she could because it's toxic to the liver and all that. And so she noticed he needed it less and less. So the periods were elongating. And he not only wanted to go on one walk, he wanted to go on two, then three. His energy was improving, his quality of life. If there's one thing I live to do with this company, is increase the joie de vivre of dogs and cats. What is the joy of life? What is that on the scale? For some dogs, it's running and fetching. For other dogs, it's just being bright and being their true selves, and being excited and alert and wanting to engage. And some dogs are sled dogs and they want to pull sleds. Depends on the thing. Some dogs love to swim. When their joie de vivre goes down, they don't want to do those things as much. And so when we see those things come back, we're very excited. So one of the things I don't think we do well enough as a company, we're trying to do that this year and certainly next year, is do more of the longer form videos about stories of people, because we hear these crazy stories. I mean, they still sound crazy to me that, anxiety goes down and in 4 to 6 weeks. And these aren't promises. We can't make these promises for every single dog, every single cat is super different and unique. But we hear these stories and we just go, wow, what a blessing. I mean, like, how did that happen? And it's really just the gut was compromised. We freed it up, we unlocked it, and then all this magic happened that we can't take any control of or any credit for. But when the gut gets fixed, all these other things just magically start to resolve.
Before we jump over to the new product, I just wanted to touch on fermentation a little bit more because this is something that it intrigues me so much and at the same time confuses the heck out of me. And I don't know why. It just, our brains do weird things to us sometimes. I've been trying to get into just understand. I understand how beneficial fermentation is, and I actually I encourage a lot of my clients to use fermented foods specifically with animals that need digestive enzyme. Like when I feel like we need if I could talk, digestive enzyme support.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just naturally as we age produce fewer digestive enzymes. But in dogs that have compromised guts, they're also, not digesting the foods properly, and just the gut isn't functioning properly. So it is, to me, I understand that because this product is or any product that you ferment, because I put a spoonful of fermented beets in my mouth and I was not happy. I was not a happy girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm trying. I've got some kombucha on board. I'm okay with that. I'm making a sourdough starter and keep telling myself one of these days I'm going to make some sourdough bread if I get some time. And so I understand the benefits of it. I don't understand. I know there's a difference in. You talked earlier about a dog or a wolf will bury some of their kill, for example, and then it will ferment over time. To me, that there's a newer term I've heard called wild fermentation. That sounds like wild fermentation to me.
Yeah. I mean, we used to use the term wild fermentation and we realized nobody really understood what it was. But so dogs love Dr. Billinger says they love stinky and revolting foods. And that could be days old carcasses. It could be trash. It could be all kinds of things. So dogs love that kind of stuff. Dogs love stinky. And so again, what we do is we do it in this, my number one word I need to use for what we do is we just optimize nature. So we're just trying to select a profile of ingredients and ferment in this ideal scenario that just creates the best product that we know how to create. And so I don't know if that's an answer to your question or if you want to know more about, I don't love, we all eat fermented things. Just most people don't realize it. Of course, cheese, coffee, chocolate, sausage is they're all forms of fermentation, and some teas that we drink. And then of course, the things like, sauerkraut and kimchi and all that sort of stuff. Those are obvious. Most people just think of those right away. But in our everyday life, we're eating things that are fermented.
So is it mostly for the digestive enzyme part of it? Are there other things that we're looking at for?
Okay, sorry.
I know I wasn't very clear.
No. Yeah. So great, super good question. Very few people ask me. So enzymes are activated in fermentation. They don't create digestive enzymes. So when you take digestive enzymes, those are, they're manufactured in laboratories in vats, just like probiotics, but there's a different manufacturing method for it. And they're designed to break down protein, break down fat, break down carbohydrates, on and on. They all have different benefits. And so those are very different. Digestive enzymes are different than enzymatically activated foods. All I can say is fermentation is so crazy what it does, and it's so simple. And the fact that it's so simple, it's hard to wrap your brain around all the processes that happen during the fermentation. I mean, there's a battle going on in every batch of fermentation between oxygen and carbon dioxide. There's a battle between good and bad microbes. And the good microbes win every single time and in pretty short order. The bad guys come out right at the beginning and they start to die because the proliferation of the good guys, and that's that thing I was saying about the tug of war. The good guys overpower the bad guys, and there are no more bad guys. At the end of our fermentation, you're talking like 5 pH, and that's safer than the salad you'll eat at the finest restaurant in America. So when you talk about food safety, it's naturally food safe. There's no need to worry about any of the bad guys just because nothing turns out the pathogenic bad microbes, the bad bacteria, the ones that can harm us, they're pretty weak. They're good talkers at the beginning and they come on real strong and they die real fast. And they cannot live in an acidic environment. And then of course all the oxygen gets pushed out and carbon dioxide builds up. And that also helps a lot with that too. And so it's a just amazing, thing. And unlike your beets that you're putting in your mouth, like I'm not a kombucha drinker at all. I love sourdough. Like I can taste our products and they taste like greens to me. They don't taste like revolting or anything. And our new product that we'll talk about is actually kind of sweet. It's trippy. Like you think there was fruit in there. I'm sure that's the way it lands on my taste buds anyway. And it was a little bit scary to put out a new product that's all grasses and sprouts and not put something like cheese in there. Cause you're just like, oh gosh, I really hope, my dog's like a horrible example because he'll eat everything healthy. Like he'll just, like, you can hand him a piece of anything, and he'll eat it. So he's not the right test case. I cannot use him at all for that. And so, we put this out and we did a limited trial and I'm not trying to be cute here, but we went with our gut and we said, dogs are going to love this. And because it's fermented, they sense that it's fermented. And it's just this weird instinctual drive. It's like gut contents. I'm going to eat it. And most dogs just turn on. And cats, they realize, and the new product that we have is also, I'm happy to say, available for cats too.
I love that. So, okay, the new product, Youthful Grasses and Sprouts, it has, where are my notes here? It has 4 grasses, 3 sprouts, all fermented. Yeah, so obviously it makes a whole heck of a lot of sense that cats would love it as well. So no ingredient overlap to the daily product, to the boost we're giving to the gut there. And tell me, well, you're welcome to tell me what those grasses and sprouts are. I have them in front of me as well if you want me to read them off.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you. It's they're all organic. So wheatgrass, alfalfa grass, barley grass, oat grass, which is gluten free, for those wondering. And some people are themselves gluten free, so they don't want to be around gluten. So anyway, there's that, and then broccoli sprouts, and then did I just go out of order? Yeah, no, yeah, broccoli sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, and then cabbage sprouts. So all these guys, people say, "Oh my gosh, wheatgrass, is that wheat?" And we say, yeah, but it's like if you have a wheat allergy, you can usually do wheatgrass because it actually changes and metamorphosizes, becomes something very different when the wheat shaft and all that start to form. While it's a grass, we love this formula because, I wanted to build this amazing anti-aging formula. So when I started to think about this, I thought, well, what is life? Well, I immediately went to like sprouts first. And then I thought, wait a second, grasses, the young grasses, those are all coming out of the ground and they're catching the sunlight and they're in their absolute perfect, form of growth. They're, the longevity and the whole idea of their youth is like they're in the beginning growth phase. So what if we just picked these grasses and then we had sprouts that were also in the same stage, and we thought of these amazing ingredients that were designed for um, the point of their life, like their young growth. And then we fermented them to break them down so they were easily absorbable. That's what the whole genesis of Youthful Grasses and Sprouts is. We call it YGS. So it's gussysgut.com/YGS. If you want to just go, you don't have to type out youthful grasses and sprouts.
Well, and I think maybe you just explained it, but the whole idea of how youthful these grasses and sprouts are is that the biophotonics is a word that I had not heard before.
Yeah.
But the idea that what my sheet says that they're eating the sun, which is incredible. I mean, the sun is life giving, right? Which of course takes me down another rabbit hole of all these people that think the sun is horrible for us. But
Yeah.
anyway, is life giving.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of falls right back into line with what you were saying.
Yeah. I mean, these are, appreciate that. I mean, the thing I think about all the time is the term life force. So what is like the life force? What is life giving? And to answer that, you have to know um, evolutionary biology, which is what Dr. Billinghurst is the top of his field in. You have to know, like, for millions of years, what these dogs and cats have eaten and needed. And then we are fortunate. We don't live in a cave by a fire and have to go hunt for these things. We can go, you guys can leave the hunting to us. We find these and we break them down and ferment them and package them. So you can just add them to your dog's food and just sprinkle it right on, mix it in, and so life force is the theme, especially for this product. It is for all of our products, but I think of us as, yes, a gut company first, and I also think of us as a nutrition company because these ingredients don't just work on the gut at all. I mean, they're doing like ridiculous amount of heavy lifting when it comes to nutrients and nutrient absorption, which is also the key.
So, okay, all between Daily and YGS, I'm going to try to adopt that. There are so many incredible ingredients. I have so many questions I want to ask you, and we're like already over, we're at 47 minutes. So I'm going to try to get these in. I think that is a perfect example of providing a ton of diversity in the diets of our dogs. That's something that I think, and I know you're very passionate about raw food. Raw fed dogs specifically, like if you look at them as a whole as a population, the diversity of their gut microbiomes is actually worse than kibble fed dogs. And we've seen that in the biome research that has been done with all of the, FMT and everything that's available to us. So this is giving us a lot of diversity to add to diet, which I absolutely love. But the problem that a lot of people have is sourcing, is access. Because as you were talking about earlier, it would be wonderful if we could buy everything, get everything, or grow everything locally. And we just can't do that. And so the diversity piece, I think, I'm sure that was top of mind as well for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned something earlier when you were talking about introducing the product. I mean, there's no product overlap there. What we're allowing folks to do is if you want to go the route of our daily product and go beyond boosting. Let's say you have a dog that has extra needs. Maybe they're overcoming an illness. Maybe they're older and you want to really give them like a level 9 support. You're feeding daily. You can add grasses and sprouts to it. And I know that sounds like, the founder of a company saying feed more of our stuff, but that's not where I'm coming from. If your dog needs more, you're able to add this to it. And we're happy to offer this to you because there's just no overlap. And these nutrients are completely different than the youthful grasses and sprouts are completely different than daily and vice versa. So what you're doing is you're just stacking the amount of phytochemicals, phytonutrients, all the good chemicals, all the vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, all the things. You're just stacking it. You're creating like this powerhouse. But if you have a young puppy who's super healthy, we'll just assume for a second this 6-month-old, 8-month-old, whatever, 2-year-old is, they're new to life. They're new to glyphosate in the environment. They're, have maybe only been on kibble food for a little while or whatever. So they have their systems haven't degraded, haven't had as much degradation. And so, definitely have like you definitely have a age thing that you want to look at first. Then you want to look at genetics, and then you want to look at epigenetics and consider all these things. How many rounds of antibiotics has my dog had? Is their gut microbiome completely stripped? I mean, you can get really, it's not that hard to figure out where your dog is in terms of needs. Do you live on a golf course that's heavily sprayed with chemicals? Sorry to say, I think golf course homes are beautiful, but do I live near a farm that sprays chemicals every week, especially with the planes going over? Or do I have even a neighbor that has a lawn service and a weed service come and spray around the perimeter of their home? So all these things have impact. All right. One of the easiest things you do is look at age of a dog, and then also look at symptoms, of course, and all the other things I just mentioned. So I don't know, I might be going off on a tangent, but you can feed more to get a greater benefit than feeding less. And for dogs we say that for dogs that are already really healthy and wonderful, like you could just go with youthful grasses and sprouts. It's a little bit less expensive. It's 7 ingredients versus Daily's 19. You could save a little bit of money. And so if budget is a concern to you, you can go right to Youthful Grass and Sprouts and get this amazing benefit, just amazing benefit.
And I would imagine the reason why you wouldn't put them all in one product is because you want to leave room for that difference in what one dog may need versus what another dog may need.
Yeah, and we're becoming a lot more sensitive to, as we grow, we're becoming more sensitive to budgets and the economy. And what we want to do is make it easy to feed fermented foods to your dogs and cats. We think that's the most important thing. The more that we've got two issues really. If you put everything into one product, you're going to have to feed a lot of it. So that's number one. And like for Daily, all you need is 1 teaspoon per 20 pounds of your dog's weight. And you also have this thing of like, the more ingredients you put in a product, you're bound to find some dog that the owner thinks they can't have that one ingredient. And so they completely dismiss the whole product. And they're like, oh, you're like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, we see this with Daily. I mentioned to you at the beginning of the show, like, people are like, I can't have kelp or I can't have cheese but I want all the other ingredients. You're like, oh no, like this is so sad. Like this dog can't have this. And this owner is not going to ferment on their own. So it, hurts us, and I mean like our mission, it hurts. It's, our whole way of, being the company we are is we want to improve the lives of the pets we serve. We want to increase the amount of years, healthy years that we add to our customer, meaning our dog and cat's lives by 1 million years. But, in the 5 years that from the beginning to the next 5 years, we want to increase the amount of healthy years to 1 million years. And we think we can do that by encouraging really great health, moving to a little bit more raw food, and then adding fermented foods in there. Our goal is to increase like your pet's life a few years. And so, was obviously a lot in between, dreaming that and doing it. And we know that, but there's a lot of steps in between that we need to encourage people to adopt a healthy diet. So to get away from just a kibble diet, but we think we can do it.
Well, I love that. And I think it's probably a good place to end the episode on the mission and what you want to do. I want to say thank you. And actually, really quickly, I know you've mentioned a couple of times gussysgut.com. So that's certainly where people can find the product. But is there anything we should be like keeping our ears open for?
Well, yeah, we have a very exciting 2025 planned. We're very excited about a new product that we're going to have come out that will be more affordable and a bigger bag for multi-dog households, bigger dogs. Very excited about that announcement. And we're going to keep focusing on our sourcing and the quality of our products and just making this much easier to understand, added benefit to your pet's health. And so we do that through education, thank you for allowing me this platform to do that. And so 2025 for us, we're really wanting to increase the accessibility of fermented foods for all dogs, and especially like, the people who email us say, I have 7 dogs, help, so we're very excited about that. So we have a couple announcements. If you're interested, pay attention to our social media, sign up for our newsletter, and we'll let you know about that in short order. I'd say we're going to have a series of pretty big announcements by spring of 2025.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait for it. And I want to say thank you again for all that you're doing for pets and their parents. Because when we see that what we're doing for our pets is making a difference, like, it just makes us feel so good too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the story of the short lives of dogs and cats is a tough story. And I'm one of these people that needs to be told all the time to live your dog's life and not their death. I'm always thinking about, like, oh my gosh, how many more years do I have for my dog? And I was obsessed with this since the age of 16 when I lost my first dog. The short life of dogs is very hard for me to handle. And so I have been obsessed, honestly, with longevity in pets, in our dogs and cats since 16. How do we keep them around longer? If we can get even just one more year, like, it's incalculable, what that's worth, at least for me. And I know that our customers feel the same way. And I know you do too. So, that's the name of the game. And so we're playing defense on some issues, and we're also playing offense, and we're trying to be proactive and improve longevity. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity, Jessica.
Of course, it's always nice to have you guys. Check out gussysgut.com, follow them on socials. Can't wait for the new product announcements. And if you haven't already, check out Daily and YGS. I'm gonna get that. YGS.
That's right.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Give your pets some extra love from me and Rob today, and I will talk to you next week.
Bye.